And now we're going to turn to the Shadow Foreign Secretary, also Labour's head of campaigning, Douglas Alexander. But if you're Foreign Secretary in due course, there will be a very straightforward choice. Do you side with Angela Merkel and Germany saying no rewriting of the debts, or do you side with Syriza and the leftist uprising? Which is it going to be?
Well, actually, you appreciate we're outside the Eurozone, thanks to the actions actually of the last Labour government.
They'll both be wanting
and
your
primarily
support.
In terms of the funding and the deals between Greece and the Eurozone, that's a matter for Eurozone members. But of course, we've got a strong interest in the United Kingdom, not just in stability within the Eurozone, but also growth. The problems that Greece faces is not just a fiscal problem, it's a growth problem. And that's why we've got a very strong interest in seeing higher levels of growth across the Eurozone in the years ahead.
This is a massive, massive challenge to the Eurozone, what's happened in Greece and potentially in Spain in due course as well. Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, listen, there's a fundamental question. Is the economy run for the people, or do the people benefit from the economy?
So it's a good thing.
And in that sense, no. As I say, we've got to make sure that Greece meets its responsibilities, but is able to do so in a context of stability and growth. Those conditions certainly do not apply at the moment. That's why there's a heavy responsibility, both on the new Greek government and on Angela Merkel and other Eurozone leaders, to make sure that there's a constructive dialogue in the weeks ahead.
You may have seen Nicola Sturgeon on this programme last week laying out her demands for any kind of arrangement with the Labour Party, and I want to ask you about those. She said, first of all, that she wants to rewrite the so-called vow demands for the nature of Home Rule. She wants more powers for Scotland's Parliament. Is that something, do you think, the Labour Party could talk about?
Well, I did watch that interview, and it seemed to me that Nicola, in this seat, got herself into a rather curious position of saying she wants a Labour government, and the way to get a Labour government is not to vote Labour. I've got a different message.
She wants a Labour government dependent upon the SNP, which is slightly different.
Of course she would affect that that's what she wants, although I personally think that she may well actually want an in-out referendum on Europe and a Tory government, because those would be the most propitious circumstances for further independence in Scotland. But to come back to your substantive point,
yes.
I think if you look at the vow that we put in place, that benefits Scotland, not least because of the Barnett formula. What Nicola is now proposing, full fiscal autonomy, would rob Scotland of £4 billion of financing through the Barnett formula. It would mean the end of the Barnett formula, and that's before we even consider the fact the oil price has fallen from more than $100 to around $50 a barrel. If we're strong for Scotland, we should be supporting the Barnett formula, not the kind of proposals that we saw from Nicola last week.
Another thing she said was we demand an end to austerity economics, and effectively to tear up and rewrite the Ed Balls plan for the next 5 years. Is that potentially on the cards?
Well, actually, the first and only fiscal commitment of the Scottish National Party is an immediate 3p cut in corporation tax. So in terms of which party best understand that the real challenge in this election is a plan that works for working families, it's not the Scottish National Party, it's the Labour Party.
I'm asking you whether, as the Labour Party, if she came to you and said, this is what we want new Home Rule powers, we want a new austerity deal, would you be in the process of negotiating that or not?
I'm in the business of a majority Labour government.
I know. Because it's crucial that people understand whether you would talk to the SNP
It's crucial
or
for
not.
Journalists, it's crucial for commentators,
it's crucial for voters.
For Labour politicians. What I think is expected of them is that we work hard to deliver the majority Labour government that can deliver the changes, not just that I believe Scotland needs, but I believe the whole of the United Kingdom needs.
The Conservatives, as you know, are putting up on posters all over the place Ed Miliband alongside Alex Salmond saying this is the nightmare possibility, and Sinn Féin. Voters are going to want to know, is that a real possibility or not? I mean, if, for instance, Nicola Sturgeon comes to you and says, we demand the end of Trident, would Labour talk to her about that?
As a prospective Foreign Secretary in an incoming Labour government, the responsibility of defending this country is not something that is the subject of simply trading away interests one way or the other. Let her play that game. My responsibility is to work to deliver a Labour government, and the responsibility of a Labour government would be to keep this country safe.
OK, you've been very clear on Trident, but on the other issues, I think a lot of people watching may think, OK, it's not clear. It's quite possible that if Labour didn't get all the way to a full majority, they would indeed talk to the SNP, and we could come with some fudge government. And therefore, the Conservative accusation that vote Ed Miliband to get SNP as well is accurate.
And that's why this conversation suits David Cameron and Nicola Sturgeon. Let me explain why. Let me explain why. Because the fact is, every one less Labour MP in Scotland makes it more likely not that you get a Labour government, but that you actually have the largest party in the House of Commons being David Cameron's led Conservative Party. So actually, if you want change in Scotland, my message is clear. The safest, securest vote is a vote for the Labour Party, because otherwise you risk David Cameron getting back into Downing Street. His last best hope is now to split the centre-left vote in the United Kingdom, and that's why I'm simply not going to play that game.
Well, Nicola Sturgeon is very, very clear that she wants to deal with you, and you are not saying that she can't have a deal with you.
But that's got much more to do with her campaign than with government. The fact is she's trying to persuade Labour voters to vote SNP to get a Labour government.
And doing very well.
My message is vote Labour to get a Labour government.
And doing very well. I mean, if you look at the polls in Scotland, it's terrible for your party at the moment. You could lose your own seat.
Sure, the polls are tough, but the fact is, after the referendum, there were a very significant constituency in Scotland who want change. I share that appetite for change. In the coming election in May, the way that we can secure that change is not to split the centre-left vote, but to deliver the maximum number of Labour MPs and thereby make sure that we have a progressive government, not a government led by David Cameron or a government of David Cameron and indeed Nigel Farage.
Jim Murphy says that from now on, because it's in effect a zombie parliament, Scottish Labour MPs should get out of Westminster, go back to their constituencies and campaign like fury to be re-elected. Do you agree with him?
Well, I'm actually on a plane back to Scotland at 11:30 this morning, yes.
You do agree with him? OK. Moving on to...